speaker, I just want to go over a few things. First, we have our chat box. Make sure to drop where you're tuning in from and your LinkedIn so we can connect. And next, we have our Q&A. Make sure to drop some questions for our speaker, and we will go over them at the end. So now I will hand it on over to Scott from Lucy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming together for this event on democratization at scale and the role of automation. This is an area that we have a lot of passion about. We work with largely Fortune 1000 companies or some large consultancies and agencies that directly service that audience. And they all deal with massive amounts of information. And so how do we get the right information to the right people? I'm Scott Littman. I'm the co-founder and managing partner of Lucy. As an entrepreneur, I've been building businesses in marketing technology for pretty much my adult life, and started this journey with Lucy about 6 years ago. And in that time, we've picked up amazing customers. We're approaching the fourth generation of our software. We have well over 100,000 people hours of development, 4 patents, and really excited about what we do in the area of how AI and automation support the area of knowledge management. So I've got a few slides to go through, and I was also going to give a quick live demo as well. And so I'll start with this metaphor of the iceberg, which I think is really interesting when it comes to knowledge management. And so when we see the iceberg, we can see what's above the waterline, but the challenge is the unknown, what's underneath. And data is kind of the same way. If I'm working on a project, I know where those project files are. I can get to them in 2 clicks, and I don't need any, I don't need any help for it. But when I start thinking about all of the data that has been produced by my peers, by subject matter experts, by other departments, divisions, and other geographies, I start to think, well, my organization must have this stuff, but where is it? And that's below the waterline. That's the unknown. And that's where the world of knowledge management tools comes in. And the is state today, when it comes to how to find all this knowledge, is I think one of 2 ways. And we've surveyed and talked to and done sessions with customers, and we hear 2 things. One is users will search through file systems, typically Microsoft technology like SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive. And search today tends to be still by keyword or file name. And the user that is willing to search is greeted by a list of documents. Maybe it's 10 or 20 documents, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100, maybe it's thousands. But even in a small list of just 20 or 30 documents in a search, if your answer is on page 62 of a 100-page PDF that's in that list, you're going to have a hard time finding it. And if that list of documents is 100 plus, you don't even bother. And so we find that for many users, they look at human intelligence, and they go to Teams or Slack or other messaging apps and start sending messages around the organization, to at Dan, at Lisa, at Luke, at Zach, at Wendy. Does anybody know where this report is, this study, this stat? Can anybody help me find that video from the town hall from 3 months ago that talked about this? And human intelligence is great because sometimes the universe returns exactly what you need. But sometimes those news feeds go by pretty fast, and the people that could answer it don't see it, and they don't respond. And even if they do respond, it's very disruptive if you're the peer or subject matter expert that is constantly answering these questions. And so today you'll meet Lucy, and Lucy's an answer engine, and it's Lucy's job to give the right answer to the right person at the right time. Now, if we think about those answers, we really have to define what is even knowledge. Where does it live, and what kinds of knowledge are we talking about? And so I'll start on the top left. Knowledge oftentimes lives in the internal file systems that are managed by a company. Most of the companies we work with tend to be on Microsoft tech, so lots of SharePoint and Teams integrations and OneDrive for Business, Office 365, Azure Cloud Streams, and the like. But we also see plenty of Google Drive and Box and Dropbox and Ignite and Amazon Cloud and other forms of systems where storage lives, where data lives. And we have all kinds of hooks and integrations directly into those platforms. But knowledge also is in the documents then that are in those systems. And we really focus largely on unstructured data. So all of those PowerPoints, PDFs, Word documents, throw in infographics, OneNote, Visio, text files, wikis, audio, video, all of that unstructured data is a huge source of knowledge. In fact, we've seen studies from organizations like IDC that'll say that roughly 80% of all enterprise knowledge is unstructured. And if we think about all those proposals and research documents and trend reports and strategy decks and all that stuff that we produce or we receive that shows up in our email or that we're presenting and working on tends to be unstructured, and it's in those file types. But we also have knowledge that comes from tools, subscriptions, and partnerships. So if you think about, dashboards in Power BI or Tableau, surveys in Knowledge Hound, great sources of syndicated data like eMarketer by Insider Intelligence and Mintel and Kantar, Global Data, and others. These are all forms of valuable data that are also a form of important knowledge, and whether it's those internal tools or whether it's those external partnerships or subscriptions. And for us, a good knowledge management system is going to sit at the center of it and have connectors for all of these kinds of places where data lives, tools and subscriptions, and data types. But the other thing is then, how do you get it all in? And it's not just the connectors. It's for us, we have a theme that uploading is obsolete. And Lucy has to automate the access to all of that data. If a customer has dozens or hundreds of different repositories, SharePoint teams and the like, then we need to be able to connect to them and make sure that the indexing of that data is fully automated, because there's just way too much effort if people are uploading and trying to manually curate the final projects or documents into a knowledge system. And people have better things to do with their time. And as an example of that, we did a case study with a large CPG we work with, and in that particular, it was a business unit, 1,000+ users, and in their opening 6 months, they had indexed over 110,000 documents in 4 languages. In fact, most of the indexing occurred in the first 60 days. And it was at the time we were doing that case study, I was looking at one of our competitors' websites, and they were, it was, on their site, we started, and this was in August. It was actually August 3rd. I took this screen grab and kind of blanked out the name in the middle there. But, we started uploading documents in December, and we now have 1,000. And I thought, we do thousands every day. We've actually indexed over 50 million pages of content in the last 2 years. And it's just, I can't imagine anybody uploading those pages or trying to pick and choose which ones should go in at a file level. I mean, yes, at a volume level, which team site or team sites should go in. But automated indexing is critical, because there shouldn't be a significant labor effort to the process to get the documents in. It shouldn't be a tax that is borne on the users to try to remember, oh, this document needs to get into the knowledge system. And so we automate all of that. So with that said, my favorite thing is to say that Lucy exists to amaze, delight, and empower people with knowledge. And I'd like to briefly show you what that looks like. So I'm going to switch over my screen, and we're going to go to web browser, and we will go there. Now, there's just going to be a little mini demo. There's all kinds of stuff we love to show in full demos, but I'm going to focus really on the most important aspect of Lucy, which is her ability to answer a question, really any question. And so I'm going to ask Lucy, how is regenerative agriculture impacting consumer behavior? Why that? I just went to a giant list of questions and thought what would be interesting. but it allows us to highlight a few things here. And of course, everything is live demo. And so I'm going to zoom in first on the nature of the question itself. Oops, sorry, we'll move up there. How is regenerative agriculture impacting consumer behavior? Lucy uses natural language. It's really critical. Human language has evolved over the last 10,000 plus years to allow us to be expressive, to allow us to share the intent of what we're looking for. And so it's really foreign to just try using keywords. Nobody walks around the office, shouting regenerative agriculture, or insert the term. We just don't use keywords with each other. We use language. And while Lucy can certainly handle keywords, and in fact, we have some great filters by source and time frame and file type and by metadata that allow us to take something like a keyword and refine it. But if somebody just asks Lucy the same question they would to another colleague, in this case, if maybe we've got a pitch or maybe we're doing research or a study for a client, how is regenerative agriculture impacting consumer behavior? It's the kind of question I could ask another person. That's what I can ask Lucy. And in this case, Lucy's going to have a variety of answers, all ranked by her confidence score. And if I dig in, I can see, well, she had a great answer on page 9 of a 16-page document. We show our confidence, how much Lucy thinks that this is the right answer. We can give Lucy a thumbs up or a thumbs down to give her feedback. We share when this is from, so it's a relatively recent document from the spring. I can share this with a colleague. I can add this to a project. I can click here and open up the information tab and see the metadata, which is going to be inclusive of everything from keywords, brands. If there is geography data, we'll have locations. And all of that tagging is done at the page level. Every single page of content has been tagged for those 4 attributes of metadata. So themes, keywords, locations, and brands or organizations. And so it's the sort of thing that an army of humans would never try to do. And yet every page of content has been brought in. And when we say that Lucy's an answer engine, she said, well, this, page 9 of 16 is a really good answer. I'd have another good answer, page 6 of 16, another good one from page 28 of 59. And so these are different documents, different pages. And I can download the document from the native system, which in this case is SharePoint. I can see what else is in the document. But Lucy's searching all of my connected sources. In my case, this particular Lucy is connected to 30 some sources, different HR volumes, some different SharePoint volumes, subscriptions that we have, as well as some key tools. And Lucy's searching all of them, giving us the best answers from them. Now, in this case, this particular example came from a first-party source. But I'm also going to ask Lucy, how is inflation impacting shopping behaviors? And in this case, I believe the sources, instead of being internal files that are coming off of, say, our SharePoints, we're more likely to see answers that are coming from third parties. And in this case, third parties being eMarketer, and looks like it's all eMarketer, which is great. And so if we click in, we can see, in this case, we have an automated feed direct between us and eMarketer. So as they publish new stuff, Lucy is being fed with that new content, which is also true of the Euromonitors and Mintels and Good Datas and Kantars and other third-party vendors that we are connected to. And so Lucy's really picking, regardless of the file type or the source, what she believes are the best answers to the question that has been asked. So that's kind of the mini demo. And normally when we have time for a full demo, we'll show how Lucy integrates to video, how she can work with surveys through partners like Knowledge Hound, how she can help find the expert in an organization through partnerships with organizations like StarMind. Lucy is multilingual. My particular Lucy is able to speak 3 languages, but we have roughly 100 languages we can support. About 50% of our users are overseas, and multilingual ends up being really important. We also can integrate to dashboards that are in data visualization tools like Power BI and Tableau. We have content publishing features where we can publish and promote content, and also how Lucy works in mobile environments as well. And so if you'd like to see an in-depth on any of those things, would be very happy to share that in a deeper dive demo. But from there, we'll open it up to Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott. We do have a few questions for you. First is, how are you getting these documents generated? Is it from Google or is it from certain studies that are done?
Well, so the content, and I should have probably been more explicit, the content is typically the data a company owns or the data a company licenses. And while we will bring in certain specialized public feeds as appropriate if a customer needs it, what we really are working on is the data that is really explicitly not in Google. If for our customers, their first party data, the data that is in their SharePoint or internal systems, is not searchable to Google. So that is really a huge chunk of the content. But then there's subscriptions. The depth of a Mintel or Euromonitor or eMarketer is not available through Google or public sources either. And so we're bringing in owned and licensed content.
Awesome. And then what are the biggest challenges you've seen customers overcome using Lucy?
So, my favorite thing is when somebody says, I didn't know we had that, or I could never have found that, or I believe we should have it, but I don't know how I'd get to it. And all of it comes around really a theme of democratizing data. And so while there are all kinds of different use cases that we work in, whether it's research and insights, which has been a real leading one, but also HR, employee onboarding and support, call center and operations. But the common theme across all of this ends up being data democratization. How can I make it easier to connect all of this data to the individual who needs it? I think it's interesting because a lot of times data is set up internally in a company, and the security is simply this is the business group we originally set this up for, even though there's other groups that could benefit from it. And so the ability to kind of go across different business units, different teams, different geographies, and empower people with that knowledge that they would otherwise not even know exist is something that we're really proud of. And I feel like that's the most common theme to the biggest problems that we end up solving for people.
Awesome. And then because Lucy is using automation to connect these data locations, are the changes made to the documents and files in those reflected in real time with Lucy?
Not quite real time, but typically within 48 to, typically within 2 days. And so what happens is we have a persistent connection to the customer's environment, or really environments, the different SharePoints or team sites and things like that. And if we see that there's been a change, if a document was deleted, we automate and forget it. If a document is new, and it simply that's the working directory where people are at, and they save something new, Lucy picks it up and schedules it for kind of, imagine if she's like the employee on the team that has a reading list. Oh, I see that there's some new stuff. I better read that tonight. And then if it's an edit or revision to an existing document, she schedules it the same way and really relearns any of those new changes. And that's all automated. It's all scheduled. So it's not quite real time, but it's pretty immediate, and those changes will take place typically within 24 to 48 hours.
Awesome. And then are you using Elasticsearch to fetch the documents?
We have our own technology on the back end. We have received 4 completed patents. There are some components that we leverage in our stack as a fully packaged solution. But yeah, Lucy's our own tech.
Awesome. And then can everyone in a company insert insights in the platform to be searchable by the system?
So anybody that has access to whatever the connected sources are. So if I'm in a big company and I have access to SharePoint and that SharePoint's connected to Lucy, then yes, you are able to.
Awesome. And then is Lucy labor intensive to implement in the beginning in order to set up the automation?
So the way I would say that is the actual setup is fairly quick. In fact, we just committed to, well, we had a customer that we kicked off with 2 weeks ago. I've got another customer kicking off next week. In each case, their timeline is 4 to 6 weeks for the first stand up of Lucy. And most of that time is simply doing the initial indexing of the first, terabyte or terabytes of data, and doing some back-end QA, just testing results before we bring the first client usage in, which typically is 4 to 6 weeks later. And we're pretty consistent on that. That said, some customers have waves of new content sources, and we're constantly growing and evolving. So the first stand up is 4 to 6 weeks. It is a very light touch from the IT team, by the way. The We go through some security protocol and clearance work with IT, but there's no dev or heavy lift for IT. It's usually a couple of supporting 15 or 30-minute calls on the front end as we go through security protocols. But the rest of it is Lucy really processing the data and just start doing back-end QA. 4 to 6 weeks and first users are touching. That said, typically these systems evolve where we might have an initial set of sources, but we're constantly bringing in new sources, bringing in new teams, and those things tend to evolve over time and are almost constantly evolving, which is actually kind of cool.
That is super cool. So, how do you avoid or detect false or malicious documents?
So what happens is if a user asks a question and recognizes that something is outdated, is bad, there's user feedback right into the system. And users can upvote as positive reinforcement, but also downvote for negative reinforcement. Further, we have a system called Lucy Assist. And when users use Lucy Assist, it's a chance to say, I didn't find what I was looking for, or I am questioning this content, and they flag it. And the Lucy Assist creates a support ticket that goes both to the customer's Lucy lead as well as to our customer success team. And we can look at, are there issues? Is there anything to remediate? So to a certain degree, there's a constant level of both AI training that's going on, but also kind of content review and potentially remediation.
That's great. Do employees have to log into Lucy to use it, or can it be integrated with Power apps?
For most of our customers, we're integrated into their single sign-on, and they just use their corporate ID, and they are into Lucy.
That's awesome. So, I guess kind of expanding off of that, can Lucy be embedded onto company website?
So we have customers that will have an Ask Lucy box in the website that really, when they fill that in, it then spawns the Lucy window. We also have some interesting mobile access, and some of the tools we use in mobile are also embeddable as well.
Awesome. It seems like that is all the questions that we have for you today, Scott. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to all of our viewers for your participation and for being here. If you have any more questions or you want to reach out, make sure to contact Scott or click the Book With Me button, and it'll take you directly to Lucy's site. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good stuff.